Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dad Bod's Crab Cakes and Sports, where husky middle-aged men discuss the latest sports news nationwide, including our Baltimore roots of the Ravens, Orioles, Terps, and more. This afternoon, it is myself, John Lanschkraner, with my friend and co-host Mike Frisky. Mike, how are you, sir?
I'm good, John. Ready for some Ravens today. We got the late start today, so just kind of wetting the palate with some 1 o'clock games and kind of amping up, ready to go for that. Was it 4:25 start versus the Chiefs today in Arrowhead?
Well, that's great, Mike. I'm very excited for this game. I think it's going to be a good test for a depleted Ravens defense. I think that's kind of our big thing today is going to be that the defense is missing two key stalwarts. But anything exciting going on in your world right now?
Not particularly, man. They're just plugging along with the soccer season. We're about halfway through. Both the teams are doing well. Both my girls' teams are actually undefeated. My high school girls and my little girls. So that's good. We're having a good season, but there's always ups and downs and adversity that goes along with the season. So we've got a few of those bumps along the road, but just kind of trying to make all the things happen, going from one place to the other. You know how that is in the fall with schedules and two different kids playing soccer and other duties as assigned, from the wife, and just kind of try to get everything taken care of. So this weekend was a little bit less involved as far as like the sports go around, but just other things were a little bit busy. How about I know you're healing from the COVID virus, John. So how's that been going?
Oh, it's okay. I've been drinking these things called hot toddies. They're kind of a southern thing. It's a mixture of water, lemon juice, honey, and a dark liquor, either bourbon or Irish whiskey of some sort. So I have some Maker's Mark and just kind of pour it in with hot water and mix it all together. And when I drink that, my throat feels good. And I think you're only supposed to put one shot in, and I think I may have put a little bit more than one shot in.
It
But
sounds like an excuse to get drunk to me, John. That's what it sounds like.
Well, this whatever this strain of COVID is, like it gives you like an ear infection feel in your ear, and then like when you swallow, it feels like there's a razor in your throat. So I tried going to like McDonald's and ordering the frozen Coke and seeing if that helps, and then I tried this hot toddy to see if the warm would help, and the warm did help much better than the cold did. So I don't know if that's the Maker's Mark or if that's the hot water or the honey or the lemon, but one of those things definitely help the throat out.
Well, I'm glad that you give that COVID a heartwarming drink, and I hope that you are on the track to recovery. You told me that you sold a couple cars from your deathbed on Saturday.
Yeah, I had a couple people who touched base with me after trying to contact them for weeks. They're like, "Oh yeah, we're ready to buy now." I'm like, "Okay, great. Come in Monday. Here's the paperwork. Fill this out online, and then we'll get you taken care of on Monday." So I've evidently been recovering from COVID for almost 10 days now. So I'll be good to go tomorrow. But I told my boss, I said, I should just work from home and then come in one day a week and deliver all the cars my one day during the week. But he didn't like that very much. He didn't answer. He's also a Steelers fan, so you got to give him a little bit, but it's all good.
Yeah, the telework thing isn't really working as well in the current climate of our country. So, best of luck with that aspect of things. For me, the question for you, John, are you a spoiled Raven fan, like Kyle Hamilton said, and just expect that defense to play well, and when they don't, we're just spoiled? How do you feel about that?
I think that's it. I think kind of the mantra of the Ravens, since they've been in Baltimore, has been there's the Ravens way to play, and that is you have a staunch defense, a stingy defense, and an offense that can't really do much. So the defense has to be stingy in order to win games. Now that play like a Raven has sort of changed, but we've been very blessed to have, Hall of Famers on our defense since we came to Baltimore. And I think the Ravens fans just kind of say, you know what, that's the way that the Ravens are going to play always. And when they don't, it really hits home. And Hamilton saying, you know what, guys, maybe we need to push or kind of roll this mantra back just slightly. you know.
I didn't love it, John. I disagree with you completely. I feel like the expectations put on this team are put on this team by the members of this team themselves. They're the ones who've been telling us it's Super Bowl or bust. They're the ones who've been out there preparing, telling us that they're ready to go for the season. And the defensive effort that they've given thus far has been unacceptable. And I understand that as a player and a captain, you're just trying to kind of probably stick up for your guys, right? Because you guys know that they're working hard. And just because you're working hard doesn't mean the results are going to happen. But I think the coaching staff, the players, and the GM need to look at themselves in the mirror a little bit and say, hey, were we really as ready as we thought we were coming in the season? Like the defensive line, we were talking edge rush. You've been a big Mike Green fan. Like he has not been an instant cure. There have not been, and obviously with the Van Noy injury, it's only magnified the lack of pass rush that we have at this moment. And then you see guys like Namde go down, and you see that we aren't quite as deep as we thought we were on the defensive interior because we got gashed by Detroit last week. So it's obviously a little bit amplified by the fact that we've had so many injuries, but I don't think we were nearly as ready as we thought to be a Super Bowl contender going into the season. And I think the defense does need to look in the mirror because they certainly didn't tackle very well last week, regardless of whether or not the defensive line played well. So they need to own it a little bit more. And I'm sorry, Kyle. I like Kyle Hamilton an awful lot, but I'm not sure that was the best thing to say to a rabid fan base that supports you week in and week out.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Mike. And I understand that flip side of it too. But here's my question. And I saw this, and as we always say, like Ravens and Orioles fans aren't exactly, great at, what should I say, doing their research and actually thinking with their heads, as most fan bases are. But it really is a question, though. Where does this defensive blame fall? Does it fall on the inexperience of Zach Orr? Does it fall on the players? Where does this fall? Because should the Ravens have done more to keep Mike Macdonald around? Should they have gone out and got an experienced defensive coordinator? Should they have done something instead of bringing in an inexperienced defensive coordinator to try to, round? We have potentially what? We have potentially 4 Hall of Famers on this defense. Potential future Hall of Famers on this defense, depending on how things work out. And what falls on the defensive coordinator and the schemes and those sorts of things to try to get all this to work together.
Who are the 4 Hall of Famers, John?
Well, you're looking at it, Marlowe, Roquan, and potentially Hamilton. I'm saying potentially 3, at least 3.
I'm not sure Marlon Humphrey's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Very Good to me. He might be a Ravens Hall of Famer. I'm not sure he's an NFL Hall of Famer. However, I'll give you Roquan on that track, and I'll give you Kyle Hamilton on that track. To me, I see 2 maybe.
Maybe Matt
obviously. I see those guys as very good.
If he gets hurt. But no, 2
I mean, the problem is you can be good without being in the Hall of Fame. Like, I mean, I just don't see those guys as surefire Hall of Famers. If you guys like Terrell Suggs that aren't going to make it right away, like these guys are nowhere near that territory. So to me, you got a ways to wait. And obviously, that's not to say that a Nate Wiggins or one of those Starks or one of these younger guys doesn't pan out way down the road either. But right now, I think that's a bold statement to say that we have 4 Hall of Famers on defense. I think we have the potential of a very good defense. But your question of what the problem is it Zach or is it scheme related is a very real problem. And I think we're going to find a lot today in Arrowhead when we have to go up against Mahomes and the Chiefs. And, to see what he has in store, are we going to keep the same old plan of blitzing from everywhere or hiding blitzes in back and forth and, disguising when we're going and who's going? Or is it going to be a little bit of a different game plan today? I'm curious to see what the idea is behind the Ravens defense today.
Yeah, I do as well. And, we talk about this every time, every time we get a new defensive coordinator, because Wink Martindale wanted to just blitz the crap out of you and play man-to-man defense on the backside where, Mike Macdonald was kind of a mix of this. And then Zach Orr seems to be, he's blitzing, but then he's playing that sort of shell Tampa 2, with guys right behind the linebackers. And like I said the other day, that's what Kelsey eats alive. So I don't think you're going to be able to play a zone with a blitz. You're going to have to choose one way or the other. You're going to have to play man-to-man with a blitzer, or you're going to have to play man-to-man with 2 safety help over top and hope that the front 4 can get to the quarterback and not allow Mahomes to just sit there. Mike, do you see what I see?
Yeah,
We have 21 people watching, and I don't know if that's a mistake or if that's actually people watching, if that's YouTube. If there's really 37 people watching us,
John, just
start
keep
commenting.
just keep talking about the Ravens, man. You don't worry about who's watching us. I want to see who's watching the Ravens today. I want to see which Lamar Jackson shows up. I want to see if Lamar Jackson is the one who's going to really take this team on his back and say no mas, and he's tired of things. I want to see if Derrick Henry can tote the rock today and make sure that he secures the football. I bet he's been sleeping with that football, every night since then. I heard they were trying to pry it out of his hands at practice the other day, and they couldn't because he's focusing on one thing, which is no turnovers. Because the thing has really, overall, the defense has played awful. But what was really bit the Ravens in the rear end was the fact that they turned the ball over in the fourth quarter, and they can't force turnovers. And with that being the case, that's a huge issue for the Ravens. So whoever wins the turnover battle today, I think that could be a complete key to victory, John. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think if we can hold on to the football and if we can cause Mahomes to make a couple mistakes, get a couple fumbles here or there, maybe even a special teams, get a block kick, get a block field goal, something like that. It seems like there's a lot of that going on in the NFL the last couple of weeks, the kind of block punts, block field goals, those sorts of things. But I think if we can get Lamar good field position, and then if we can run the football. Because I was reading an article, I don't remember who was by, or maybe it was on a podcast something, but they were talking about how one of the effects of having an effective offense like this that is quick strike is that you're not winning the time of possession, which then is making your defense be on the field a lot longer than in traditional Ravens, right? Traditionally, we ran the ball, we ate the clock, and the defense wasn't on the field that long. Where now we're 40-yard passes and 2 10-yard runs, and you're in the end zone. So within 8-10 plays, 3 minutes down the field, you're done. So I don't know if that has much to do with it or not.
Well, I spoke to that last week, John, because we're not Greg Roman's offense. It's not 3 yards, first down. It's first down, touchdown. Oh man, we have left our defense exposed for time of possession of 35, 40 minutes a game. That's not going to cut it. So being able to hold the ball a little bit longer, I think, should be in the game plan. But it's a blessing and a curse because you got Lamar Jackson on your team. You want to score. The defense then needs to adjust to complement the offense. So finding ways to get off the field on third down. Maybe it is you adjust your coverage to either, like you said, John, a zone altogether, or maybe a man on the back end of a blitz, and figuring out how they're going to cover these guys effectively. But what they can't do is what they've been doing, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And using that definition, if the Ravens do that again today, we're going to have the same questions at the end of today's game that we had at the end of the Lions game and the end of the Bills game. Mainly the question being, this defense can't do anything to support an offense that scores 30 to 40 points a game. So either we need to start exploring the trade market, like you said earlier, John, off the air, which is Cam Jordan or somebody like that on the edge to help really solidify this defense, or we need to be looking elsewhere for maybe a different defensive coordinator or somebody who could come in and change the scheme around.
Right. And I think either one of those two are great options, because we're going to need to bring in, an interior defensive lineman, because our two are on the injured list. The guy they need to sign to a lifetime contract is freaking Brent Urban, man. That guy somehow ends up on the roster every year and then ends up in the middle of everything. So I really think that the guy that I think is missed in that interior line is Calais Campbell. Is not. And obviously he's almost 40 years old now, but I watched the game the other night for the Cardinals, and he's still making offensive linemen look silly. He's still doing things in the middle of that interior that we could definitely use, but we let him walk 2 years ago because he was 37. But I mean, he's 6'8", 350 pounds. I mean, he's taking up blockers. He's doing everything like the young guys did. So, some of these things that obviously cap related and all that kind of stuff. But man, if we could have Calais Campbell back, I would be thrilled to death.
Yeah, I think EDC is going to explore the trade market. I think there's no doubt about it because of the Super Bowl aspirations of this football team. I don't think you can go and just say, "Hey, we are what we are" at this point, right? They've invested too much money, too much time, too much effort with this group of guys that they're going to definitely see what they need to do to patchwork fix this defense to make sure they have at least something serviceable that can make a deep playoff run. So I really don't doubt that. You can't dig yourself a hole today. You got to find a way to win this game. I know it's a little early to be saying must win type scenarios, but I mean, you lose today, you go, 1-2 in the AFC, and you've lost 2 games to AFC contenders most likely, and you're probably 2 games back of Pittsburgh at least in the AFC North, and you're just kind of digging with every shovel blade, boom, you're just digging another hole, and to dig out of that is going to be too much if you keep digging. And we're not playing, layup teams come after this game either. We've got the Rams and the Texans. So both playoff teams from last year. So it doesn't automatically get easier either. So they've got to make an adjustment defensively. They need to find somebody who is going to either change the scheme. Like I said, defensive coordinator wise, they did that last year when they brought in, what's the fella, the old fella, was it not Dean? Was the old fella, John, that they brought in last year to fix the defense?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking.
Hey, somebody who's listening and help us out. It's the guy. He's been to Ravens before. Starts with a P. What's his name?
Either way.
Yeah.
Beyond that, John, you have a computer. You could always just look it up on there while I'm talking.
Doing.
But the point being, they need to bring in somebody completely new if it's not working, or they need to, like I said, make some changes on the defensive end. But what I'm looking at today is the return of Isaiah Likely, John, not to switch gears. Oh, yeah. Chuck Pagano. So Chuck Pagano. Sorry about that, everybody. But Chuck Pagano, who he's the head coach at Indianapolis. He was defensive coach here in Baltimore before and did a really nice job turning things around last year. And obviously, what happened now? It's almost the same team as last year with a couple rookies infused. And again, we're having struggles at the beginning of the season figuring out how to play off of one another. But I'm going to switch gears, John. Like I said, Isaiah Likely's coming back today. He had a moment in Kansas City the last time he was there that if his feet were a bit smaller, we might have come out of Arrowhead with a win last year. How do you think Isaiah Likely's return impacts this Baltimore Ravens offense today in Arrowhead?
It's going to be very interesting to see because Lamar has, up until last week, he threw I think Andrew said 91 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. But before that, I think our tight ends combined had something like 6 total targets, and I think 3 or 4 completions, something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But he brings the other element to the field because he can both stretch the field, but he can also catch the jump balls as well. So you as a defender have to defend him straight up. You can't cheat one way or the other because he can run past you down the field, but he can also stop. Lamar throws the ball up, and he can also go out, climb the ladder, and go get it. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see very early on of how healthy he is. Is the foot? Is the lower extremities that he had a problem with? Is it healed completely? And is he going to trust himself that it is healed? And is he going to go off it or not? So I think that is something that the Chiefs are going to have to really game plan for because I think Lamar is going to test it early and often if he's really back to it. And then what are they going to do with Charlie Kohler? Because he's been a very strong in the 3 weeks that he's had to take the place of Likely.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to me, the Ravens offense versus the Chiefs defense is a very interesting matchup. I think the Chiefs are one of the more underrated defenses in the NFL. They have strong linebacking core. They have good play in the secondary. When you have a guy like Chris Jones, who's plugging holes up front, they have a little bit at every level. And I get concerned when it comes to our ability to be multifaceted because everything that Lamar does when we get the running game going, it's just so much more. And when they stuff the run like Detroit did last week and make us more one-dimensional, it makes it a lot easier to defend the Ravens. So can we get some run blocking today? Can we get some run blocking today? Can we get a push up front in the trenches? Because Detroit absolutely destroyed this team on both sides of the ball in the trenches. and defeat the defensive line was getting a push. They sacked Lamar 7 times. The offensive line wasn't getting a push, and we weren't moving the football down the field with the running game. We were only moving the football down the field with the passing game. Now, do they add some wrinkles? The short dump off passes, can that be part of the running game? Can you do some screening? Like if they let the pass rush come through, if we're struggling on the offensive line, be a little creative, see what we can do there. But that's what I'm looking for from the offense today. And to get Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews on the field at the same time and let those two do some magic on those linebackers, I think would really help open things up for a guy like Bateman down the field, or even Zay Flowers on a deep route here or there, or dare I say, Tez Walker, who has played a pivotal role for the Ravens so far this season. And then obviously you have DeAndre Hopkins, and he's been a great just as far as like throw it up and he'll catch it kind of guy to keep the chains moving or to make a big play down the field.
Yeah, and I think the game might mean a little bit more to a guy like Hopkins, who was in Kansas City, and then they let him walk, because I know some friends who are Chiefs fans like, hey, he's washed up, blah blah blah. But adding that extra wrinkle now, having Likely in there with Hopkins, with Flowers, with Andrews, with Bateman, with you can run 3 wide receivers with 2 tight ends and Henry and spread the field out even better now with Likely. Which you spread the field out, then that should, in theory, give Henry some more running lanes, which, with a Kohler, who's more of a end of the line tight end, that doesn't give you. So that's going to be an interesting to see how much more they go out of the shotgun, spread them out wide, and then try to give Henry some running lanes that way as well.
I mean, and can we protect the quarterback? I know Stanley was banged up. Did you see if he was expected to play or not, John?
I did not. I didn't.
I have concerns because guys like George Karlaftis, he's a good football player. Charles Omenihu, they're good football players. And you got Chris Jones, who they move all around the line. So if we're expecting, Noteboom and Rosengarten to be our bookend tackles against this rush, it could be a long day. Lamar could be running for his life back there. And remember, like I said, their linebacking core, Nick Bolton's still there, Leo Chanel, they got a good linebacking core too. So it's nice to get Isaiah back, because that could really put some pressure on the linebackers a little bit. But I have deep concerns about our offensive line today, especially if Ronnie Stanley doesn't play.
Yeah, I don't see Stanley. He's questionable with an ankle injury. So he did not practice Wednesday or Thursday. He was limited on Friday. So he's questionable. But then I'm on the Ravens.
They haven't posted inactives yet. They probably haven't done that yet. I mean, The fact that he practiced Friday is probably good, and usually that's what you look for, right? Is if they don't practice at all, it's probably in the books. But the fact that he at least had a limited practice on Friday gives me some hope that he's out there, this afternoon.
Yeah, and Travis Jones, the only healthy interior defensive lineman who was on this roster to start the season, is questionable. He was limited on Thursday and Friday. So we'll see how Brett Urban and the rest of that, kind of defensive line by committee can really help plug the middle of that line and open up to be able to.
And John, why don't you share with everybody what you shared with me earlier about the other guys on the center of the defensive interior and what the Ravens have done with those guys?
Yeah, they got Brett Urban back. I mean, that guy needs to sign a freaking lifelong contract for the Ravens, because it seems like every year he comes in on the practice squad, and then partial of the way through the season, the guy ends up on the active roster for the rest of the year. But we're gonna need something, because both Matabike and Washington are both on the injured reserve, so that puts them out a minimum of 4 weeks. So I don't know what we're going to end up doing. We're going to have to make some sort of moves with trades or something to bring in experienced people, because we can't just grab people off the trash heap and shove them in the middle of the line and hope they can hold blockers for Roquan. We need to bring in, somebody with, like I was saying before, like the Calais Campbell. That would be, my dream guy to get in here. But obviously, I don't think the Cardinals are going to give him up, and is he worth a late round pick at this point in time?
I think if you're a Super Bowl contender, he's worth a late round pick. But I mean, who knows? They have the they have the ability to bargain at this point. All the chips are for them because they know how desperate that the Ravens are to, to find an interior defensive lineman. So
Right.
you might see that pushed out a week or two, and you might just see. Obviously, the Ravens are going to explore a little bit of what they've got right now, just to see who's there and who can do the job in a backup role. But I think it's going to be clear. I think it's going to be crystal clear by the end of the next couple of weeks that they need to go out and make a move for somebody on that defensive interior, if not on the edge as well, to really solidify this team moving forward.
You
John, can you
think
tell
they
everybody
could
where they?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you think they could convince Pierce to unretire?
No,
come,
no,
come
John,
back to the middle of the line?
no. Pierce is done. He's gone. He went bye-bye last year, buddy.
Oh,
Tell
that's right. The
everybody where
Buffalo
they can
hat guy.
find us, John. Tell us where they can find us.
They can find us at dadbods, crabcakes, and sports at gmail.com, on X at crabcake_sports, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, dadbods, crabcakes, and sports. So we are also on all of the podcasting platforms, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iHeartMedia, wherever you might get your podcasts. And we'd love to hear from you guys. So like us, follow us, subscribe, auto download, all helps us grow our podcast.
John, we have the last game of the year for our Baltimore Orioles today as they take on the New York Yankees in New York, as Kyle Bradish toes the rubber for the last game of the season. And had you told me at the beginning of the year that our last game of the season would be in September, I'd have said no way. And now that you're saying it now, I'm just like, oh yeah, we knew probably in July that was going to be the case. So, as this season comes to an end, as the sun sets on this version of the 2025 version of the Baltimore Orioles, any closing thoughts on this team as they ride off, like I said, into the sunset?
Well, let's hope they can take some of this momentum with the starting pitching and things into spring training and into next year, because I think at the beginning of the season, that was a lot of our issues, was just the starting pitching wasn't going in enough innings. They weren't confident enough, and we were getting into the bullpen too early, and then things began to crash and burn from there. So I think we're getting a little bit momentum in that. We have some of the guys that we've talked about all year, like Mayo, who are getting hot in September, which we hope, there's things you can work on in the off season and then, hopefully come back next spring. But, my thing is just, I think we need to make sure everybody's healthy, everybody's on a good training plan over the off season, and that spring training comes, we keep everybody healthy. And so that by, April, we're playing with a full deck of cards. Because I think this year we just weren't playing with a full deck of cards for a majority of the season. And, we made some good moves. Mansolino has not done a bad job with this team. He's shoved into a pretty bad situation and, injuries and things of that nature. And I think he's done okay. But I think, I'm very excited as to how they played in September. And if they can bring that along for the remainder, of the offseason and into the beginning of next season, I think we have a lot to be looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I think hot mayo is something you got to be concerned about sometimes, because if you leave the mayo that's in your refrigerator out too long, that kind of hot mayo is something you probably don't want to deal with. But if you have say a cheeseburger or a BLT and it's just sitting there and it's part of the sandwich and part of the hot nature of what you're eating, hot mayo is fine. So I think it all depends. And in this case for us and the Orioles, Kobe Mayo now batting close to 220 rather than 190 is a good thing, if you don't disagree. And let's be real. The Orioles prospects, as they've come up over the last couple of years, haven't all came in and lit the world on fire. Jackson Holliday needed some time to adjust. Kyle Stowers obviously needed some time to adjust and has taken off this year. And I think you have to be fair to these young guys and give them a chance to kind of make those adjustments. And it might take months to make some of these adjustments. And it looks to me like Kobe Mayo has kind of picked up on some things here heading into September. The unfortunate thing is, obviously, he's going to have a little bit of layoff to pick this thing back up in March and April next year. But it's certainly promising when you think about, he's showing signs that he's turning things around. Whereas if he just came into the end of this year and was just continuing to plummet like his average had been in early August, we'd be in big trouble. And not only does he not really project into our lineup maybe for next year, but he also has no trade value at all. And at least in one of those two ways, hopefully he helps you next year with what he's done here in the second half of September and really picked up his game.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is just can he keep it up, because where is his value for next season? And going into the year, we had talked about Mayo being potentially somebody they would be a trade piece if they were going to go out and get a front end starter, if we were in contention and things like that. And then he came up to the big leagues and just kind of fizzled. But seeing him pick up and maybe not having pressure on himself, it was really a big, obviously, like we talked about, you have pressure as a major leaguer every day that somebody's behind you going to take your job. But, he doesn't have the pressure of a pennant race and those sorts of things. So he really picked up, I think, a lot. And it's just hopefully he can keep it going, because they're going to have to, like we talked about, they're going to run out of spots for some of these infielders, and they're going to have to, move them for, other needs that we might have.
Yeah, and you listen to I was reading an article on MLB by Jake Rill, and he was talking about what do the players feel here at the end of the year as they're finishing their last game of the season, and Jordan Westberg is talking about how he's positive that they have the pieces here to really compete. He said, "I'm confident in the talent in this clubhouse," is what he said. So like, there is talent here. There is a core group of players that, if built around properly, they can turn things around moving into 2026. The big questions lie to me in the front office. Are they willing to turn things around in a way in which they're going to spend some money in the ideal situations? Who's going to be the manager of this ball club next year? Who's going to be the general manager of this ball club next year? So it really starts at the top. And the quicker they can get a jump start and answer those questions, the more confident I'm going to be moving into the offseason that they're going to have more answers in the player personnel department.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is what are they going to bring in, or who are they going to bring in for that general manager slot? What is his role actually going to be? And then what manager are they going to bring in? Because then that also plays into what Elias is, how hands off he's going to be of those guys. And if they're going to have Elias basically run the farm system, the GM run the big league club, and then the manager, handle his day-to-day manager things of the on the field team. Because I think if Elias gets his hands in too many cookie jars, that it's not going to be a good thing. But I could see that happening though.
Well, and also good organizations do things in the right order. So like, you get the GM in place, you get the manager in place, and then together you build the team. What happens when you do that ass backwards, for lack of a better term, is that you end up with segments of the team that have different philosophies and different strategies. And when something doesn't go well or adversity hits, you'll see a lot of times that there's a combative nature between the leadership. And we don't want that. We want a plan that fits together. And things happen adversity wise, like they did this year. It was injuries to the pitching staff, and then injuries to everyday players. And then it was not performing well. And then we couldn't get out of the hole. And then, so like, that stuff can snowball quickly, as we saw this year. And so hopefully the lesson learned by this group of players is they can't let that happen. They have to say they can't. I think previously they had 2 winning years and they just said, "Oh, things are going to be okay. Things will right themselves." Like, they can't allow it to get that bad again next year. And I think that's the one thing that hopefully the players come out of this year with, is we just can't let it get that bad again. We have to stop the bleeding more immediately, and we have to fix things and be proactive in it. And it's not necessarily like tinkering or anything like that. It's just a leadership aspect of it that needs to change, and just a way that they go about it that needs to change, that I think having a strong manager in there that helps them, guide them in that process, will be a huge benefit to this 2026 Orioles ball club.
Well, just my closing thought with all this is I think the manager that comes in needs to be a player with the World Series experience, a Carlos Beltran type person, to, I think, lead this team and give these players kind of the insight that's needed. Because I think bringing Mancelino back, I don't think is going to be the right answer. I don't think bringing somebody from inside the organization is the right answer. I think it's got to be like a Carlos Beltran type person. I don't remember. There was one other guy. Just slipped my mind. But yeah, like a Beltran type guy has got to be the manager of this club next year. And his relationship with Elias already, from their Houston days and those sorts of things, I think may may lead to that. But I don't think anybody in house right now is going to be good for this club next year.
Quick scoreboard update. Looks like the Giants lead the Chargers 13-10. Falcons 17-10 over the Commanders. Eagles 24-6. I thought that game was going to be, but between the Eagles and Bucks was going to be a lot closer today. Patriots are destroying the Panthers. The Panthers, I think, scored first and early, but the Patriots have dominated since 28-6. The Saints are hanging around with the Buffalo Bills today in Orchard Park. I don't know what's going on up there. 14-10. Bills at halftime. The Texans beating the Titans 6-0. That seems like a snooze fest. And then the Lions up on the Browns 20-7 at halftime. The Ravens and Chiefs today, John. The Ravens are favored by 2.5 points. So I'm going to ask you what your prediction is. Ravens Chiefs today, 4:25 game. What do you think the score is going to be? Tell me about the outcome.
I think that it's going to be probably the Ravens are going to score 30 some points, I think, but I think the Chiefs are going to end up winning. I just think we didn't have enough time to fix this defensive line, and I think that with the Chiefs' two-headed monster there on the running game, I just think that it's going to be a nightmare. I think our offense is going to score, but I still think we're going to have problems with the defense. We're going to put 8 guys in the box to stop that run, and then Worthy's back, and then Kelsey, and then the rest of them. I just don't see a real way that the Ravens come out with a W today, unless something happens that God forbid, you don't want injuries on anybody, but something happens to one of the Chiefs players, or we get an early turnover that gets the momentum going on our route, and then we can take that and win. But I with the defensive line, the way it's beat up and us not having opportunity to bring somebody in, I think that's going to be an issue. So I'm going to say 30. I'm going to say 36-32 Chiefs.
All right, so I disagree with you. I think it's going to be a slugfest, honestly. I think the Ravens are embarrassed on defense. I think they're going to come out and they're going to play motivated. I don't know that does anything but keep the Chiefs in the 20s, but I think that's helpful. And I think the Chiefs defense is just good. So it is a high-octane Ravens offense. I do think the Ravens will move the ball a bit. I just don't think they're going to score quite as much as they have in the past. So I see it in the 20s game. I want to say Ravens need this really, really bad. And just because they've played a couple high-caliber opponents, the Chiefs need it bad too. But I feel good about today. I want to say Ravens 24, Chiefs 21. Tyler Loop wins it on the last-second field goal today, which would be an awesome outcome for Ravens fans. So let's just hope that happens, John.
Yeah, I hope that's the right thing. But my heart's telling me that, but my head and looking at everything else is telling me something completely different. So this week we'll go with my head.
All right, so Ryder Cup, right? We talked about this last time. The U.S. is getting just curb stomped by Europe in the Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black in New York, and it was 12-5 going into today because Victor Hovland couldn't play in his match, so they automatically have that match now. That kind of hurts the U.S. because they need so many points. Just get a half match, and that really, really kind of hurts them overall. So Europe needs 2.5 points, in the other 11 matches in order to win and the Ryder Cup. I'm sorry, actually, they need 2 points because I think you need 14 to retain the Ryder Cup and 14.5 to win it. So unless the U.S. goes, like a 10-1, I think they're in trouble. And just looking at the update, Europe leads in 1, 2. Oh man. 3, 4 of the matches currently. So right now, U.S. is in trouble. John, did you watch any of the Ryder Cup this weekend?
I didn't have the opportunity. I watched some of the highlights and things, but I just saw the U.S. was getting, as you so fondly said, curb stomped by the Europeans.
It's been very impressive. If you watch Justin Rose and just like he is so pinpoint on fire when it comes to these types of match tournaments where he's partnered up with somebody else. Rory, the U.S. is yelling, chanting stuff at him, and he's got to call like the security over to like tell him to calm down. And but still through it, they're just stoic. They just play so well through that. And the U.S. actually played pretty well yesterday, and Europe just played out of its mind. Birdies all over the place. I think it was the Scheffler match. Europe was 11 under, and they finished in 6. It's 11 birdies on 16 holes, and I think the U.S. had 9 birdies. and they just lost the match with 2 holes to go. Like, it has been that kind of Ryder Cup where everything has gone right for Europe. I will say this, and this is just my personal opinion. I feel like Europe plays better for each other. They play better together. And the U.S. mindset is very individual. I feel like each player is individual. I think I take a player like I think Scotty Scheffler is a great player, but I think when he feels bad when he lets his teammates down a little bit because he's he seems like that nice guy, you know what I'm saying? But when he plays for himself, he doesn't have to feel that guilt when he doesn't play well. And when he plays with a teammate and you make a bad shot, it's like maybe it's a little bit mental there, right? When you have that added element to the game. So I feel like it's Europe has handled that piece of it really, really well, whereas the U.S. has not had that great of a time handling the emotions behind it, handling disappointments, and honestly making big putts. Because every time there's been a big putt, and there's been a pressure putt, Europe seems to come through with either a major par putt that they need to make to have the hole or a birdie putt to win it, and it's been that way all weekend long.
Yeah, like I said, I saw some of the highlights, but then I saw some of those. There was a video on, I think it was ESPN, which is the U.S. missing their putts. They're like 1 putt, 2 putt, 3 putt, 4 putt. And it was just the U.S.
It's like a bad Dr. Seuss book. Yeah,
right.
I don't know what's going on here. Yeah. So I just wanted to update everybody. I'm praying for a miracle. I put money on Europe though. So we'll see what happens here as we finish up the Ryder Cup today. But John, you have a special segment for everybody to listen in on today?
Yeah, I got some ballpark figures for you, Mike. Some questions. So a list here. So my list here is name the stadiums that do not have a sponsorship in Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NHL.
How many?
Let's see here. 2, 4, 6, 8. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 baseball stadiums, 3 NFL stadiums, and then 1 NHL/NBA stadium.
Man, that's tough.
I will do one of the Major League Baseball ones technically is, but it's not, if that makes any sense. Actually, 2 of them technically are, but they...
Well, Oriole Park doesn't have a sponsorship, so that's one.
Yes.
Yankee Stadium doesn't have a sponsorship.
Yep.
You have... does Fenway have a sponsorship?
Technically, no.
Is that the one? Is that the one?
No, there's another one.
Okay.
Fenway, technically, no, but there was a Fenway organization back when the park opened. But it doesn't have a sponsorship, no.
Wrigley.
Another one that technically does not, but was technically built by Wrigley Chewing Gum.
Yeah.
So technically, if you're going to go by sponsorships today, it does not. But originally, back in the day. Okay.
So that's 4, right?
Okay.
Yes. Let's see. Travel. Dodger Stadium.
That's 5.
Dodger Stadium is 1. Let's see who else. Well, that one's no, not that one. I've gone through my head here. Nope, that one's got one. I'm just thinking out loud in my head. So like I was thinking Tiger Stadium. Oh wait, it's not Tiger Stadium. It's Comerica Park. That's a sponsorship. That's not legit. And so I'm kind of going one by one through the stadiums as I go through the Midwest right now. We did Chicago. Milwaukee has a sponsorship. We've got let's think about Texas has both of those teams, I think, has sponsorships. Coors Field is Coors, obviously. You've got Arizona has a sponsorship. Miami has a sponsorship. Atlanta has a sponsorship. The Mets have a sponsorship. That's Citi Field, right? Is that where the Mets play?
Yes. Yes, Citi Field.
So if we're going, let's see. It's got to be somewhere in the middle of the country, I think, right, John? Or am I off?
There's one on each coast and one in the middle.
One on each coast and one in the middle. Is this all baseball?
Yeah, for baseball. You're missing 3 in baseball. There's one on each coast and then one in the middle. One is near you, one is very far from you, and one is halfway between you and the farthest.
Okay. Where the A's play now, does that count? Like, no. I don't even know if that even, okay.
No.
that doesn't count in the list. Okay.
No, it does not count on the list.
All right.
One is near you. One is within an hour's drive.
Nats Park. Nats Park is
Yes.
the one probably you're talking about near
Yep.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then one far away on the West Coast. Let's see. Padres have a sponsorship. Dodgers have a sponsorship. Is it Angels? Is it?
Yes. It's just
Yeah.
they now it is just Angel Stadium.
Okay.
They took the sponsorships away. So there's one in the
How
center.
about the Thunder Sticks? Do they still have the Thunder Sticks?
I believe so. And the Rally Monkeys? Yeah. I've been there, and I remember them selling all those things.
All right. So one
One
more
in the center of the
ballpark
country.
somewhere in the middle of the country. Well, the Cardinals have Busch Stadium. The Reds, the Pirates have a PNC is sponsored. All those are Cleveland is a sponsor. They have a sponsor. Man, let's see. Rogers Center is sponsored by Rogers, obviously.
It's literally smack dab in the middle of the country.
Right in the middle of the country. St. Louis?
Yeah.
They got isn't it
See it
Busch?
on your TV today?
Kansas City. Oh, is it Kauffman Stadium?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the other one. So
All
then
right.
there's three in the NFL. Do you want to guess those ones? They're
Man.
easy. They're all in the Midwest. Two
my
of
brain
them
hurts.
are in the NFC Central.
Two are in the okay. Does Arrowhead have a sponsorship?
Nope. It's Arrowhead.
Okay.
It's Arrowhead Stadium.
So
That's
and
one.
then two in the the Green Bay.
Yep.
Lambeau Field. And let's see. Detroit has one. Minnesota. Soldier Field. Field.
Yep. Then
So I got my 3 NFL, and then how many others?
There's only one, and it's an NHL NBA stadium.
Is it the Forum?
No. It's a shape.
It's a shape.
Yes.
Square, rectangle, circle, triangle. Is it one of those shapes?
Yes.
Horseshoe.
Oh,
it is. Is it Madison Square Gardens?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
That's the only NBA, NHL that I could find that has no sponsorship.
Okay. All right. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how'd I do? Where was I?
Good. Very good.
Good's not a number between 1 and 10, John.
8. I'll give you an 8.
All right. I'll take an 8. If someone told me I was an 8, I'd be like, yeah, I'm an 8. I love that. So
what does Julie tell you?
Oh, 6. But that's okay. You know, she settled. We all make our decisions, and then we move on with life because that's just part of it. So she asked for a dad bod and she got it. So that is what we ended up with. Yeah. Well, do you want to take this puppy home, John? I think
we will.
We've got to get ready for the game. I've got to get my beverage poured. I've got to get my snack foods ready to go. You know, you have anything particular you're going to eat today?
I don't know. My throat hurts, so I'll probably have Italian ice and some hot toddy. That's
that's nice. That's very nice.
Yeah. So thanks.
Do you need me to spoon feed you?
Do what?
Do you need me to spoon feed you your Italian ice, or are you going to be okay?
The thing about Italian ice is that like you get those little cups from the grocery store, and you have to like scrape it off, and it takes like a half hour to eat the entire cup. So it's a good way to keep your calorie count low.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. So why don't you take it home?
Well, thanks everybody. Whether you're listening live or listening on your drive tomorrow morning, you can reach out to us at dadbodscrapcakesandsports@gmail.com. We try to put an episode out at least twice a week. So be on the lookout on X and on Facebook for our next live show. And please follow us on everywhere you get your podcast. Like follow, auto download helps us move up the charts. Keep rocking those dad bods, eating those crab cakes, and never miss the game.
See you later.